Welcome again, Trekkies! Today, our block consists of a bunch of episodes, many of whose general plot are only middle of the road, but there's just something about every one of these that's a little more memorable than other episodes in the franchise. This is Best of Trek, Worst of Trek. I'm your host, Dustin Wing. Getting serious about the Dominion at 166 and 167, Peace Offerings. Or The Search Parts 1 and 2. Ben sneaks up on DS9 in his new secret weapon for the Dominion, the Defiant. As part of the deal, he also brings back Romulan Sub-Commander Not Seska and his soon-to-be rival, Michael Eddington. Using Quark's contacts in the Karma, they aim to make contact with the Dominion and smooth over some galactic politics before the events that ended Season 2 boil over into all-out war. Unfortunately for them, the Founders have other plans and force them into a simulation to see how they'd respond to the Dominion signing a non-aggression pact with the Federation. And you'd think that was a good thing, but Ben and crew end up destroying the wormhole just to keep the peace from finalizing. Meanwhile, Odo feels a calling to the Omarian Nebula, deep in Dominion space, and takes an unconscious Kira along for the ride as he discovers his people and the Great Link for the first time. Though a bit of a misstep for changeling hair being the same as Odo's, since Odo mimicked Dr. Moira for that due. After discovering what the meaning of being a rock is, they discover Sisko and others in a bunker on this planet. The Federation's second encounter with the Dominion isn't much better than its first, but Odo finally knows something about his people, even if some days he'll wish he didn't. This one contains the last portrayal of Admiral Nechayev on screen in this false reality. A great way to kick off Season 3 and the Dominion arc. Hyping up the Dominion at 165, if it feels good, do it. Or Behind the Lines. Nog impresses the brass by getting currently hard-to-come-by Saurian brandy while the female changeling pays Dominion-controlled DS9 a visit. Odo finally gets some of the questions he didn't get answers to in our previous entry, and loses all caring for Kira and Rom, who get caught trying to sabotage the station when Odo doesn't do his part of the plot. Damar gets his promotion from Glynn to Gull in this one for coming up with a way to take down the minefield. There's a joke about how if Nog had to take command, there would be no one left. That will pay off as true later in the season during the events of Valiant. Bashir tries hitting on Ensign Kirby, who he partnered with during the events of Children of Time. This is the episode where everything starts to look rosy for the Dominion, and Nerese's frustration is probably the most interesting part of the episode, in the middle of the run of the Dominion controlling DS9. Doing an escape room at 164, attention Bajoran workers, or civil defense. There's nothing particularly special about this episode, but another escape room gone wrong plot, and Jake and O'Brien accidentally trigger a Cardassian program meant to deal with the Bajoran worker revolt as the station becomes locked down, and only Gul Dukat holds the key. Thankfully he shows up, but his own program turns against him when he tries to leave, though eventually they will get everything under control. I think it's the fact that every time it seems like our heroes have outsmarted part of the trap, they end up in an even stickier situation that makes this a fan favorite. My only gripe is the foreshadowing that never pays off of Dukat and Garrick having a time that's coming, and unfortunately, that particular bit of angst never bears fruit. This is one of my personal go-to episodes when I just want to throw something on in the background. Fighting your own base emotions at 163? Fear. Or The Thaw. This is one of the more contentious episodes amongst fans. Some swear it's Voyager's best episode, and more than a few think it's the worst episode in all of the Trek franchise. It brings a certain level of TOS Season 3 cheese with it that I can understand why some don't enjoy. But Michael McKean's performance as Fear makes nearly everything in the plot seem irrelevant because it's so good. As Voyager find a group in stasis riding out a nuclear winter in a simulator, they come to find something is wrong in this second life on Tranquility Lane. We learn a weird truth about a morgue in Kim's past as he gets trapped in the simulation by the manifestation of fear generated by the doubts of those connected to the link. In the end, Janeway outsmarts fear and is able to disconnect those under its control. It may be the best ending in all of Star Trek, as Fear's world literally fades away from him, and Janeway has a great speech about the nature of fear, and his last word is drat, before a complete black and closing credits. It feels like there's a lot of Badgie in this one. Playing it real cool at 162. Nanook de Thawd. Or His Way. This episode might hold the distinction of the most licensed music in a single episode of Star Trek. It was even nominated for an Emmy in music direction that it definitely should have won during the first introduction of Vic Fontaine and his Hollow Lounge. Odo takes tips from Vic on winning over Kira finally after 6 seasons, and in the end, Vic even tricks both into a dinner date because he knows they're both crazy for each other and haven't been able to pull the trigger. It's a simple episode, but there's something wonderfully Star Trek about how it plays out, and the way Odo just grabs Kira on the promenade at the end and gives her a kiss is one of the greatest dating moments in television history. There's even a great frenemy moment between Odo and Quark that helps cement this 60s soap opera as a wonderful episode of Trek. Calling Collect Long Distance at 161, Relapse for a Cause. Or Pathfinder. Reg Barkley shows himself to be Voyager's crew member and advocate in the Alpha Quadrant, though also having had a bit of a relapse into the temptation we first saw him suffering from, Hall addiction. This time, though, he's hanging out with a version of the Voyager crew, using them to help solve problems as much as stroke his ego. It catches up to him and requires a call from Counselor Troy to Reg's Earth apartment, as he tells the bulk of the tale in past tense, about how he's been part of a team working to make a better phone call, under the command of Tom Paris's Admiral Father. When he's caught abusing the lab holodeck and asked to take time off, we catch up with the modern time, and Reg decides to potentially throw his career away to test his theory, despite being shut down by everyone that would listen. After some shenanigans in the Voyager scenario, he's caught, but his transgalactic call to Voyager goes through, and all of a sudden, the galaxy got a little smaller. For an episode that doesn't get to the real Voyager till the closing minutes, it's so much fun to follow Reg through where he's at in his career and how he assumes the crew is still in their Season 1 uniforms. A great way to bring back some old favorite characters while giving Voyager a chance to still feel connected to the fleet going forward. If only he'd hit it off with whoever Hope is at the end of this one, he wouldn't have to correct his own mistakes in a future episode. Taking a dirt nap in a mud bath at 160, For Whom the Toll Bells. Or Who Mourns for Morn. This is probably Trek's cheekiest episode, as Morn fakes his own death to keep the bulk of a heist of 1,000 bricks of latinum, largely for himself. He brings an unwitting Quark into this plot that keeps thickening by making him the heir to everything he had. His former heist partners quickly show up and try to shake Quark down for latinum he knows nothing about. In the end, they all go to jail for trying to kill each other, and Morn shows back up alive. A few episodes after DS9 is liberated from the Dominion, exploring the show's recurring Silent Bob character in a pure bit of fun for the sake of fun is a breath of fresh air. The episode was nominated for an Emmy in makeup, as it involves a fair number of different races in the main story. One of the best bits is during Morn's remembrance service. Mark Shepard, who plays Morn, plays the Bajoran that first keeps his seat warm. An all-around fun episode in Trek's Top 200.
Ah, computer! That program is available.
Thanks, Major. Thanks, Major.
And now the continuation.
Thanks, Major.
Unable to transmit signal due to external interference at all frequencies.
Major.
Unable to penetrate due to interference.
Thanks, Major.
Transceiver gain is at maximum.
Thanks, Major.
Access denied. That code has been deauthorized.
Thanks, Major.
Tachyon beam initiated. 2 unidentified humans, Deck 4, Section 8.
Thanks, Major.
Access denied. Hologrid controls have been encrypted. Trajectory established. Transmitting.
Thanks, Major.
Unable to comply. Main power controls have been encrypted. And now the conclusion.
Thanks, Major.
Warp core breach in 30 seconds.
Thanks, Major.